No matter how you personally feel about ports of mobile games finding their way onto Steam, the reality is that just like the zombie outbreak in today's game, they are here to stay whether we like it or not. My name is Graeldon, and I'm reviewing Steam games in alphabetical order to find the hidden gems among the piles of garbage, and today's game is One Day Later, Escape Zombie Hospital. Let's begin. Let me address the elephant in the room. This game's not pretty. Some might even say it's hideous. They always say not to judge a book by its cover, but with cases like this one, it's pretty hard not to. To prove a point, here's my reaction upon seeing the tutorial. Mother of God, what is this UI? This is how you do your tutorial? This looks horrendous! I feel like if I were to make a blood sacrifice right now, this would summon a demon. Jesus. The strange part about all of this is that underneath the surface layer of the visuals, there's actually a fairly solid game here. So what exactly is this game? One Day Later, Escape Zombie Hospital was released on Steam on the 2nd of December 2022 and was developed and published by Stoned Android Studio. As you may have guessed from the name, it also is available on the Google Play Store, but it's not available on iOS. As for the game itself, this is a top-down stealth action-adventure puzzle game where you control the main protagonist, Jason, as he attempts to escape from a zombie-filled hospital. The mobile touchscreen controls make the movement feel fairly clunky, but you do have the choice of using some fairly well-mapped keyboard and mouse controls instead of the on-screen icons. However, it's the game mechanics that manage to elevate this game from random App Store garbage to maybe worth your time. Let me explain what I mean. At the start of the game, Jason is basically naked and defenseless. Avoiding the zombies completely is the only way to survive, and the best way to do this is to stay out of their field of vision, represented by the visible cone on screen, and to make sure they don't hear you either. There is a noise meter on the left of the screen, and actions like running will make a lot more noise compared to walking. I'm not sure if I love or hate that there isn't any indication of how far the sound travels though. It makes it tricky to tell if a path will take you too close to a zombie or if it's actually safe. From one point of view, having an indicator like this would give the player more control over their choices, but conversely, keeping this information hidden encourages the player to stay vigilant and increases the tension and atmosphere. I'm inclined to say they made the right choice, because there were a couple of moments that caught me off guard. For example, when I tried to turn a torch off to sneak past a zombie in the dark, and the resulting click sound alerted them to my presence as it was louder than my footsteps. But this also ties nicely to another weakness of the game: the combat. In all fairness, you are generally actively discouraged from trying to fight the zombies. As I mentioned earlier, you are entirely defenseless at the beginning of the game. If a zombie manages to catch you, you go into what I've decided to call struggle mode, where you're able to fight back with whatever weapon you have at hand, which at the start of the game happens to be, well, your hands. Weapons are able to deal damage, which will allow you to knock a zombie out, but they will get back up after a few seconds, really just giving you enough time to run away and hide. On a successful critical hit, the zombie's head is destroyed and they are permanently dead. Well, unless you have to reload the level, at which point they return to life. It's hard to keep a good zombie down. Your fists have a 1% chance of properly killing a zombie, so combat is definitely best avoided, but you will gain access to better weapons later in the game that raise the crit chance up to something a bit more reliable, but every struggle basically turns into a coin flipping contest where you're hoping to behead the zombie before they manage to overpower you. All of that is to say, combat sucks, so thankfully you can stealth your way through 99% of the game. Even better, the stealth aspects are actually kind of fun. Zombies don't know how to open doors, and if they think a tasty human is behind a door, they'll spend a few moments trying to break it down. You can push objects into place to act as temporary barricades, slowing them down further, throw empty cans down hallways to act as distractions, or even lure hungry zombies past the corpses of those less fortunate than yourself. In the dark, zombies can't see and so will remain still until the lights come back on. However, they will still walk towards nearby sounds and will chase a light if they happen to see it. There are also zombie variants, large ones that are slower but more deadly, and even military zombies that are best avoided at all costs. Some even carry torches, making them even more of a threat in the darkness. I have to give praise to the devs for how they've handled the stealth mechanics, and they've done a great job of layering these mechanics together in interesting ways. The level design, enemy placements, and allure of collectibles made each level an interesting puzzle to solve. The story follows Jason, but fairly early on we bump into Emily, a stranded nurse, who actually becomes a playable character at a later point in the game, where you are required to get both characters through each level. The idea of them working together to outsmart the zombies is an interesting one, but sadly not used to its full potential. Both characters have the same abilities, and although the intent is for the two characters to work in tandem to overcome the obstacles, I was often able to complete it with just one character and then have the other simply make a run for the exit. A nice concept, but underutilized. Having different strengths and weaknesses, or changing the level design in such a way that the two characters are separated but need to work together, would have elevated the experience, but even as it currently stands, it does a great job of changing the formula just enough when it was on the verge of getting stale, and on that note, it should be mentioned that there are a total of 110 levels to play through, so there's no shortage of content here. I got about 5 hours of playtime out of it, and for $2.59 Canadian, this is pretty good value for money. That said, I hope you also enjoy Silence, as there isn't any music in the game, despite there being a music slider in the options menu. Well, that's technically not 100% true. The music slider controls the volume for the fanfare when finishing or failing a level, and the music in the final cutscene. But outside of that, it's just you, the tap 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 of your footsteps, and the groaning of zombies. Lastly, it should be mentioned that there are a few instances of gore in this game. There's a couple of instances of gruesome cartoon violence in the game, such as decapitated bodies and an infected guard that takes their own life, and technically I think that the tutorial screen counts as well. Although One Day Later, Escape Zombie Hospital technically has a story, it's definitely not a reason to play the game. The writing is simple, but it gets the job done. The graphics look like App Store garbage, the UI somehow looks even worse, and the combat makes you wonder why they included it as a mechanic. Honestly, I'd rather just die instantly when caught so that the game reset faster and let me try again. If you can look past that though, there is a mechanically sound stealth puzzle game here that might be worth your time if you enjoy that genre. I can't say that I particularly enjoyed my time with this game. I wasn't ever looking forward to playing it in the same way that I was with something like 0 Degrees North, 0 Degrees West. Rather, I'm in a weird position where I was expecting something rubbish and dead on arrival, but ended up with something closer to mediocre. It was never so offensively bad that I actively wanted to stop playing, but it was never great enough that I wanted to keep playing, meaning that the end result is so middle of the road that you have to question why you would choose to play this over, well, almost any other game with a positive rating. That said, there is one major redeeming factor here. I mentioned that the game is $2.59 Canadian on Steam. Well, according to the Google Play Store, it appears to be free, but it is listed under a different name, One Day Later Zombie Stealth. According to the listing, it does have some in-app purchases, but it is free to download and it is an offline game, something that's becoming rarer and rarer these days in the age of always online single-player games. So with all of that in mind, my final rating is an empty can out of 10. Like kicking a can down the street, it can be entertaining when you have nothing to do, but you wouldn't bother if you had access to a PC and the internet. Thanks for watching. Welcome to the end of the video. A massive thank you to all the channel members on screen for supporting the channel, with a special shout out to our noble knights, Azazel, Lampirides, Negi Malevolent, Theo the Cat Guy, and Zest. And an extra special thank you to our 2 Knights of the Holy Grail, Freaky Feline and Loveheart Gonzi. Lastly, I want to thank you for joining me on this weird gaming adventure through the depths of Steam, and if you made it this far, here's a sneak peek of the next game. And until next time, take care.